Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. In the Bhagavad Gita, we have started chapter 3, which deals with action. In fact, the name of chapter 3 is Karma Yoga. The chapter starts because Arjuna has a doubt, a question. And his question was, you have spoken to me of two things. One is the path of knowledge, the other one the path of action. Now, both of them you have praised. And it seems to me that enlightenment is possible only by the path of knowledge. And yet at the end of it all, you tell me to perform action. And what kind of action? The worst possible action, this war that we're going to fight. So which one should I do? Should I give up action and dedicate myself entirely to the pursuit of enlightenment? Or should I do this, what is in front of me right now? Tell me one. And then Sri Krishna's answer was, Loke asmin dvividha nishtha pura prokta maya nagha. There are these two paths, but you are making a mistake. They are not options. They are not alternatives. Not that you can do one and not the other. Rather, they are to be combined. One after the other, in sequence. Karma Yoga provides you with the necessary preparation for Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is the path of knowledge, Karma Yoga the path of action. Do the action in front of you. What is in your life right now? Your job, your duties. Do it, but do it as a spiritual practice. And what is the method of doing that? Karma Yoga. So convert all of your actions into Karma Yoga. Do not give up your actions. Do not give up what is in front of you right now. Convert all your activities into spiritual practice, into Karma Yoga, and there's a way to do it. And then that prepares the mind for the higher practice of Jnana Yoga, the path of knowledge. And that leads to enlightenment. So this is a framework. I mentioned it last time also. The traditional Advaita Vedanta framework. Karma Yoga gives purity of mind, chitta shuddhi. Then upasana, meditation, gives focus of mind, ekagrata. And with a pure and focused mind, when you come to Vedanta, then Vedanta will give you knowledge, jnana, which removes ignorance. Ignorance about what? Our real nature. Who am I? What am I? So then we realize what we are, and that is enlightenment. That leads to moksha, freedom. Freedom from suffering, freedom from samsara. So this was Krishna's answer. And he goes on. We have done up to verse number 3. So fourth verse. Na karmaṇām anārambhān, na karmaṇām anārambhān, naiṣhkarmyaṁ puruṣho śhnute, naiṣhkarmyaṁ puruṣho śhnute, na ca sannyasanād eva, na ca sannyasanād eva, siddhiṁ samadhigachchati, siddhiṁ samadhigachchati. So Krishna goes on by saying, by just giving up action, one does not reach perfection, enlightenment. We are using the words perfection or enlightenment, but that's not the word Krishna has used. The word Krishna uses is naiṣhkarmya, which is very contextually appropriate. It means the actionless state. By giving up action alone, one does not attain to the actionless state. And he says, even attain is not quite correct. Śhnute means enjoys. One does not enjoy the benefits of enlightenment just by giving up activities, actions. Nacha sannyasanād eva, not just by giving up the activities of life of samsara. Siddhiṁ samadhigachchati. Siddhiṁ means perfection, realization, enlightenment. One does not reach enlightenment just by sannyasa, by giving up. Sannyasa can mean specifically the monastic life, giving up all activities in the samsara. Or in general, it could mean giving up the duties of life. Just by that, one does not reach perfection. So what does he mean? I will read a little from the Sanskrit commentary which I have in hand. This is by Sridhar Swami, who wrote about 600, 700 years ago. So he introduces this verse by saying, the Sanskrit first, Ataha samyak chitta shuddhyartham jnana utpatti paryantam varnashrama uchitani karmani kartavyani. He says, one should perform one's duties. One should perform action. What action? What are one's duties? Prescribed what is in front of you. What words he uses are varnashrama uchitani, appropriate for one's own position in life. You know, in ancient Indian society was very stratified, hierarchically divided into castes and stages of life. The 4 stages of life: youth, a student, then grihastha, a householder, then vanaprastha, one who has retired from life, and then retired from life means not dead, retired from the activities of samsara. So when you retire, nowadays, especially in New York, nobody retires. So vanaprastha literally means the forest, the one who has set off for the forest. And then sannyasa, one who gives up samsara altogether and becomes a monk or a nun. So these are the 4 stages of life. And they're all meant ultimately for achievement of enlightenment. And then there are the 4 traditional castes, the priestly class, the Brahmins, the warriors, the Kshatriyas, the commercial class, the Vaishyas, and the laborers, the Shudras. So the very broad division. And so at any time in this kind of a very rigid social setup, you would find yourself in one of this. It's like a matrix. So either you are a Brahmin brahmachari, that means you are a student and you belong to the caste of Brahmins. Therefore you have certain things to do. Or you are a Kshatriya householder. For example, Arjuna and Krishna, both of them are of the warrior class and both of them are householders. So according to that, they have certain duties. All that was fine earlier, but doesn't have much meaning in 21st century in Manhattan or even in India today. The old order is God, but what it simply means is what's in front of you in our own lives. So you have a career, you have a spouse and kids and family to take care of, and a house to maintain, your own health, your own finances. This is your battlefield. There's an option. I could give it all up, tell the kids, tell your spouse, I'm not picking them up. Or you want me to pick them up? Yes, from now on, because I'm off to the Himalayas. This is goodbye. I'm not coming back. I've got my visa, Indian visa. I'm not coming back here. And so goodbye to all that. I've turned in my papers at the job, and that's it. Now, that's not as funny as it sounds, because a lot of people, when they become very interested in spiritual life, genuinely a spiritual seeking starts, they tend to head for the high mountains, for the high Himalayas. So that's all right, but Krishna is not in favor of that. That's what Arjuna wanted to do. Remember, Arjuna came fully ready to fight this battle. And then he changed his mind. He said it's not worth it. Worth it in what sense? Worth it in the sense of worldly gain or loss. And then Krishna tells him about Vedanta. And Arjuna says, that's even better. This is really great. I will now dedicate the rest of my life to this. And I'm off to the mountains. You fight your war. That's it. You can take my sword too. And my bow and arrow too. I actually did that, not a sword or a bow and arrow. When I became a monk, I had a bicycle, which was a fancy one for those days. So one of my close friends who knew that I'm going to become a monk, he said, that's great. Can I have your bicycle? I said, sure, you can take it. I don't need it anymore. No. Sri Krishna says, rather than doing that, what's in front of you? The battlefield, the battle you are faced with, your battle of life. It's better to do that, and there is a way of doing it, which will help you. Why would you do that? Chitta shuddhyartham. for purification of the mind. For purification of the mind, for preparing the mind for enlightenment. Up to how long? How long should I do that? Jnana utpatti paryantam. Until the arising of enlightenment. Up to that. Until you get the result you are seeking for. Karmāṇi kartavyāni. Action should be performed. And what action he's already said. It's very clear. If not, suppose I say, oh, I don't care. I'm off to the mountains anyway. Anyatha chitta shuddhya bhavena jnana anutpattehe. Because otherwise, in the absence of proper preparation of mind, in the absence of purity of mind, and that goes with absence of concentration of mind, focus of mind, jnana anutpatti, enlightenment will not arise. So what you are going off for, that will not happen. Yes.
What does it mean to purify the mind in this case?
Purify the mind is, we have conditioning in our mind. This lifetime, and if you have a Vedantic mindset, then many lifetimes of conditioning. Basically, these sense pleasures will make me happy. And so I have been pursuing them, enjoying them, and so the mind has been colored. And when you try to try to focus the mind on Vedanta, your mind won't do that. We think, it's my mind, it's going to do whatever I want it to do. Oh, no. You are not up to speed with what's happening in your own house. It's not really your mind. You lost control of it ages ago. So Swami Prabhavananda ji gives a very nice example. He is commenting on, Christ's Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Look, it's exactly what we are talking about here. When Christ says, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. This is what is meant here. Blessed are those who have purified their minds, for they will be enlightened. Now, what does it mean? Swami Prabhavananda, when explaining that, he gives an answer exactly to that question. Practically, what does this impurity of the mind and purity of the mind, what does it mean really? It means this. He says, just now, try this. Take a look at the picture of Sri Ramakrishna maybe, or your Ishta Devata, your chosen deity, whichever form you like of God, Christ or Krishna. And then mentally try to imagine and decide for the next 5 minutes, I shall think of only God, only Sri Ramakrishna or only Krishna. In my heart here I shall focus and I shall meditate. A simple deity visualization practice. Many of us are initiated in a mantra. We do that. In many traditions, similar things are there. But what Prabhavanji is after is something different. He says, try it. Fixed time, only 5 minutes. Fixed object, the form of your deity. I'm thinking about it, and I have decided my mind will think about it. Within not even minutes. If you try it now, within seconds you will find all sorts of other thoughts are intruding. Within seconds. And then you have to bring your mind back to the object of meditation. It might even be minutes after you realize, oh, I didn't think about it. I thought about so many other things I was supposed to meditate. What happened? It's because of our past conditioning, our vasanas, desires stored up in our mind, they bubble forth. And they remove the particular thought we want to think about. Notice how easy it is to think about things which you like and you desire. And it is even more easy to think of things which you fear and you're scared of. You're helplessly hooked there. Now, when you consciously want to think of something, and at the beginning of our spiritual lives, a tremendous desire for God realization, most people are not lucky enough, blessed enough to have it. We have some desire. We have some desire for enlightenment. But that's not enough. All the past conditioning will bubble forth and sweep that practice out of the mind. That is impurity of mind. As we practice spiritual disciplines, what will happen is, those desires those conditionings are slowly erased and replaced with more positive conditioning, which is conducive to our spiritual practice. There's the story of a Zen student who goes to the master to learn Zen meditation, and he's told to sit and observe the breath and observe what goes on in the mind. And the student says, I can't do it, master. Why not? Because all sorts of dark, negative Unpleasant thoughts boil up in the mind. People say, Swami, when I was not meditating, I was fine. Now I'm meditating, my mind is so awful. It's not that the mind has become awful when you're meditating. Is there a seat here? Free, yeah. Rather, those thoughts were always there. That conditioning was always there. When we are very busy with the world, we do not see what's in there, what's in our minds. We only become aware of it when we calm down and sit quietly. It comes up. If you have tried it, you will know it comes up. So the Zen student says, it's awful, very difficult to meditate, oh master. Bad thoughts come up in my mind. So the master says, just keep watching. Don't be upset. And here is a bowl of, in Japanese garden, you have the smooth pebbles. So there are white pebbles and black pebbles. And there is an empty bowl. And when you have a negative thought, pick up a black pebble and put it in that empty bowl. When you have a thought which is positive and calm and relaxed, take up that one and put white pebble and put it in the empty bowl. And practice this 1 hour, 2 hours a day, every day. And so when that student started, at the beginning of his practice, the bowl would slowly fill up mostly with black pebbles and 1 or 2 white pebbles. Negative patterns of thinking. But over time, as he persisted, he began to see the white pebbles increasing and the dark pebbles decreasing. So the negative thoughts began to diminish and the positive thoughts began to increase. Till it was more or less, not completely positive, but more or less much better. What has happened? The conditioning of the mind has changed. And there's a technique to do this, but in meditation. But what Krishna is saying, meditation for 1 or 2 or 3 hours in a day is fine. But what we do in the rest of our life, that is very important. And that's where karma yoga comes in. Karma yoga changes the conditioning of the mind, makes it purer. Unselfish work done with our body and mind for selfish purposes, conditions the mind deeply. Unselfish work reverses that conditioning, makes the mind lighter, freer. Does this answer your question? What is? So the impurity of mind prevents you from practicing spiritual disciplines. And karma yoga increases the purity of the mind, and therefore it's basically a moral and ethical lifestyle in and what you are doing already, not abandoning it and trying out something new. All right. You will see that this is the basic teaching of all religions. So this is the foundation, the groundwork. This has to be laid. I can't live a very high pressure, anxiety-ridden life and then on weekends spend it all weekend partying and then just 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night I should be in samadhi. No. Won't work. The monkey mind has been allowed to do what it wants all day long, all week long. And for 10 minutes when you sit down for meditation and tell the mind, now think about God, the mind will say, why should I? I don't want to. So that is the sign of impurity of mind. To some degree, we all have it. The very fact that there is resistance to spiritual practice, that we do not take to the thought of God like the great saints of different traditions. We don't take it. It's not easy for us. Why? It's not the problem. No problem with religion, no problem with God. It's just us. And there's nothing to be disheartened about at all. It's just the work that has to be done. Inner work. So the commentator says, naiṣhkarmyaṁ, the word naiṣhkarmyaṁ means actionless state. His translation is naiṣhkarmyaṁ jnanam, enlightenment, realization. Why is realization called the actionless state? Because the enlightenment means you realize that you are this one existence consciousness bliss. And the whole of life, samsara, body, mind, all of these are appearances, like a dream in that consciousness. This is what you begin to see, not theoretically, as a fact. Not that it becomes like that. You'll realize it has always been so. I didn't know that. When you wake up from a dream, you had a dream, you're working really, really hard to meet your deadline. You're a student and your teacher has given you lots of readings and you worked hard and you fell asleep, and in your sleep also you dreamt how hard you are working. And in the morning, when you get up, do you think, I finished my readings? I worked so hard. I have met my deadline? No. All the work that you did in your dream is not to be counted, because you didn't do it at all. Why not? It was an appearance. It's not really done. Similarly, that is actually the truth. Once one becomes enlightened, then all the work that goes on, all the activities of samsara, they appear dreamlike to you. You as witness consciousness, you as existence consciousness bliss, you are not touched at all. This is one way of looking at it. Or the other way. It may sound contrary. The other way is, all of action and all the work that you do and all the people that you're involved with and all the samsara, all of it is the absolute. It is Brahman. We chant before food, Brahmarpanam Brahmavi Brahmagno Brahmanautam Brahmeva tena gantavyam Brahma karma samadhina. By the one who sees Brahman in every action, that one will attain to Brahman, means will be enlightened. The one who sees the absolute in every action. That means all the work that we do, religious work, religious action, secular action, worldly action, all of that is nothing other than Brahman. It is all pervaded by God through and through. Now, I've just said two things. They sound absolutely contradictory. One is that action is unreal. It's like a dream for the enlightened person. Or action is nothing other than God, Brahman itself, for the enlightened person. And both of them are actually the same thing. I remember one great teacher in Haridwar saying something like this, and then looking at us and smiling. Absolutely contradictory. Brahman is further than the farthest and nearer than the nearest. Brahman is greater than the greatest and smaller than the smallest. Then he looked at us and he said, well, monks, when you can clearly understand two completely contradictory things at the same time, you have understood Advaita. In Hindi he said, दो विरुद्ध बात एक साथ पकड़ में आए तो अद्वैत पकड़ में आ जाएगा महात्मा जी. Two absolutely contradictory things. And not that you say, oh, that's really cool. Brahman must be a really cool thing, to be greater than the greatest and smaller than the smallest, farther than the far. It moves and it moves not. No, it's not just meant to be paradoxical and cool. It's meant to be, for the person who understands Advaita, it's absolutely clear. There is no problem at all in this. One sees very clearly. It moves and it moves not. Think about it. When you dream, you traveled from here to maybe Paris, and you came back, and you woke up in your bed. Now, is it true to say that you moved and you moved not? It is true in one sense, yes. You experienced so much traveling. And in another sense, of course not. Nothing happened. Both are true. Yeah. So, naiṣhkarmyaṁ, the actionless state, is enlightenment. This is from Advaita perspective. You can consider it all Maya, all action, and the results of action are all Maya. The entire law of karma. What is the law of karma? Good action leads to merit, leads to happiness. Dharma leads to punya, punya leads to sukha. Deliberately naughty leads to demerit, leads to unhappiness. Adharma leads to papa, papa leads to dukkha. So this is the law of action. Somebody asked a Vedanta teacher, so many books are written about the secret of happiness. How can I be happy? It's simple. The law of karma tells you, dharma leads to happiness. Good karma leads to happiness. Dharma generates good karma leads to happiness. Deliberately done naughtiness generates bad karma, and that leads to misery. That's it. The problem of happiness is solved. Continuously keep doing, saying and thinking what you know to be good right now. Continuously stay away from, consciously make an effort to stay away from what your own conscience tells you is not good. Don't do that, don't think of that, don't speak about it. That is good, that is the law of karma. And that's all. Many people become fascinated with the law of karma. Sri Ramakrishna did not approve of it. Law of karma, after all, is samsara. It is, if you know the law of karma, it's like being in the samsara, but wisely so. Yes.
What did you mean by saying Ramakrishna did not approve?
He did not approve of it. When somebody talked about something about in the Gospel of Ramakrishna, you find it's not that he did not approve of the law of karma. He did not approve of spiritual seekers being too interested in that. Somebody said, some such thing is happening. It's that person's karma. And Sri Ramakrishna looks at him and says, "Oh, আমি দেখছি তুমি ওই দলের লোক. You belong to that class of people. Those who calculate karma, good and bad. They're fascinated by it. So cause and effect, action and consequence. It's a natural fascination for us. So this is what is determining my life. Now what do I do to make my life better? And also anxiety. Oh God, I don't know what I did in my past lives. What's going to come? What's rushing at me through the highways of karma to hit me tomorrow? I'm scared of it." No. Whether you are jnani or bhakta, devotee of God, or a person who is in the path of knowledge, Advaita Vedanta, in both cases, the whole point is to transcend this law of karma. Whatever is my past karma, I offer it unto the Lord. We'll see what is to be done. And whatever I am doing now, I shall do it as a worship of the Lord. That's a devotee's approach. A jnani's approach is, the whole thing is like a dream anyway. It's an appearance in my consciousness. Or the whole thing is Brahman. In that case, good and bad, I don't make a difference. Happy and unhappy for me, I'm serene in both. Why I brought this up is, I talked about the law of karma in some detail, just a short thing, which was put up on YouTube. And I looked up on which are the most popular talks. Right now, this law of karma, which I consider absolutely it's not unimportant, but it's not something that a spiritual seeker should focus on. Just keep an eye on it that the law of karma is working for you, and that's it. But that's not your spiritual practice. That's something you have to get beyond. And that talk is the second most popular talk on YouTube now, which I wouldn't consider important at all. On our channel, in the Vedanta Society channel. I think the first one is no mind, or something, or the ultimate truth, something to do with Mandukya Karika, which is very good. Somebody is interested in Brahman. But the second one is the law of karma. Yeah. Then he talks about chitta-shuddhim vina kritat sannyasanādeva jnana-shunyāt siddhiṁ mokṣam samadhigachchati prapnoti. Without purification of mind, if one does sannyasa, the formal renunciation of all activity, and becomes a monk, there will be, he says, jnana-shunyāt. There will be no, enlightenment will not arise, and one does not attain moksha, liberation. So the whole purpose of becoming a monk or giving up worldly activities is to attain liberation. And yet one does not. Krishna says it very, very clear. One more attitude towards karma, I wanted to mention this, is the Sankhyan attitude. Sankhya, the philosophy of Sankhya, divides the entirety of the universe, your life, into two parts. You, the consciousness, and the rest of it is nature, Prakriti. Prakriti, puruṣho. You are pure consciousness, immortal. And the rest of it, this universe, your body, even your mind, even the intellect which you are using to understand Sankhya, all of it belongs to nature. It's nature's property. Those apps belong to the company. They are not you. Now, where will action fall in this division? Your share or nature's share? Nature's share. You are there. Without you, no action is possible. But you are neither the actor, nor the action, nor the result of action. All of that belongs to Prakriti. Its action is related to Prakriti. You, the self, in a theistic framework, your relationship is either, you can put it this way, either to your higher self or to God. In a devotional framework, your relation is to God. Action is related to samsara, prakriti, samsara. This must be clear. What we normally do is, I, not being aware of my real nature, I identify with this body and mind, and I think I am this person, and now I have this power of action, things to do. And I use it to gratify this body and mind. And then I'm caught in the machine of samsara. Why? Because I have put my hand somewhere it does not belong. It is prakriti, it is samsara. Action belongs to prakriti. I'm trying to catch hold of it and get my desires satisfied with that. Karma yoga says, let action be related to samsara, let it be for the welfare of others. You connect yourself to God. That's what karma yoga says. Without purification of mind, one cannot give up action. You know what happens if you give up action without purification of mind? If one, say, practically, let's say, runs off to the mountains. I've seen this happening again and again. And you want to sit there in quiet in meditation. First of all, why do you want to do that? It seems very common, for especially when you seriously become interested in spiritual life. Many people will say, oh, no, I never felt like doing that. I'm really devoted to God, but I'm really into my life in samsara. That means you are really into samsara, not into God. What you are into is, samsara is important for me, but I'm so interested in religion. Yes, God and religion will help me in samsara. God for my samsara. God to make my life better, not my life for God. Serious spiritual seeking starts when I want God realization, when I want enlightenment. So we are taking the case of a person who wants enlightenment. Why does this one want to give up all activities in the world? Because, first of all, now they don't seem to be related to my goal in life, which is enlightenment. Second, there's a trick of the mind. It's actually a desire for, relaxation, desire to avoid trouble. The moment the lucrative part of it, the sensual part of it, the reward at the end of that, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, which nobody ever gets, the moment that is removed, then I don't feel like doing anything about it anymore. So I've seen what happens when a person runs off, literally. I've seen so many monks in the mountains when I was there. 3 consequences are possible. If the mind is already basically sattvic, that person will spend his time or her time in meditation and in scriptural study, in prayer, lead a holy, noble life, mostly. If the mind is rajasic, that person will sit down for meditation but will entertain a lot of other thoughts. If the mind is tamasic, that person will spend time in laziness and sleeping. Just waste time. Inevitably. It does not matter so much on what you have thought about. See, this decision, I'm off to the Himalayas to meditate, that comes from the level of the intellect. This sounds great. You know, the philosopher who came, Arindam Chakravarti, he says, I have this desire now to retire to the bank of the Ganges and I'll have a little cottage. And the Consul General was here, Indian Consul General. He said, maybe the Consul General can give me the cottage, he can arrange for a cottage and I'll stay there. So that's the desire to retire away from activities. But that's taken by the intellect. The mind and the subconscious mind, which have not been purified yet, when you actually try to do that, they will swing into action. They will say, I didn't sign on for this program. I want my bed tea and my Starbucks and my TV or my internet or whatever, and my parties, all of that I want. I didn't say that I'm going to sit in a rocky cave in the cold and sit with eyes closed at 8 hours a day and meditate. No. The mind will rebel. That is rajasic. Rajasic. And tamasic is laziness. Even though I decided to come here to the mountains and sit and meditate, I find I'm dozing off the moment I sit. Why? Mind is tamasic, it's full of tamas. I remember this funny story, the middle stage, Rajasic. One of our monks, a senior monk, we were the ashram I was in, it was a school with kids, 500 kids. You can imagine, 500 kids. So the Swami said, I need a break once in a while, even from the ashram. Okay, I've taken a break from samsara, and I'm taking a break from the ashram. I will go off to the villages. Some of the monks did that. They're outside the city, far away from the city. I will beg for my food, and I will stay maybe 1 or 2 days in some old temple or somewhere, or even under the tree. And after a day or two, I'll come back to the ashram. And he started doing that. Now then we saw, he would set off then not only once a month, but he would set off every weekend, twice a month, thrice a month. And he would have this determined look on his face. He would hop on the rickshaw and go off to the station and then go. We thought, what's going on with him? And then once the senior monk asked him, the monk in charge, are you all right? What are you doing there? You're going more and more often for a break from the school? And he shamefacedly said, well, I've got to confess something to you. What? That village where I went, well, I started a school there. I started a school there. Because I saw the little kids, there was no school, and I felt bad for them. So I got them together, and I persuaded the parents to, like a little hut, and I started teaching. Well, that's what you're doing here. That's the mind. And that's a Rajasic mind, a mind which is full of things to do, up and doing. Yeah. Then number 5. Nahi kaśhchit षणमप kaśhchit षणमप jātu tiṣhṭhatyakarma-kṛit jātu tiṣhṭhatyakarma-kṛit kāryate hyavaśhaḥ karma kāryate hyavaśhaḥ karma sarvaḥ prakṛiti-jair guṇaiḥ sarvaḥ prakṛiti-jair guṇaiḥ. What does this mean? Here is the problem. Even for a moment you cannot stay without work. Some kind of action will go on in your body, in your mind. You can, even if you say, I want to give it all up and sit in meditation, even then action is going on. Why? Kāryate hyavaśhaḥ karma. You will be engaged in action. Why? Sarvaḥ prakṛiti-jair guṇaiḥ. Because they are all born of the gunas of Prakriti, of nature. Nature is ever restless. You look at the universe around you, from the galaxies and the stars up to the tiny particles whirling around the nucleus in the atom, ever restless, ever in motion, continuous change. And our bodies and our minds are all, they belong to you or Prakriti. They belong to Prakriti, to nature. So they share in the nature of nature, that is continuous change. So action is continuously going on in the body. You cannot say, if I'm sitting still, there's no action. Of course there is action going on. If I try to keep quiet, mind will be active. So you notice this fact about your own nature, O Arjuna. You cannot stay even for a moment without action. If this is true, then the wise person will not make a fool's attempt to stay without any action. This is not possible. Rather, these energies are flowing through me. Prana is flowing through me. I must channelize it. If there's a particular thing I want, like the way I pursued what I wanted in the world, now I want to pursue enlightenment, let me channelize my energies towards enlightenment. A wise person will do that, instead of trying to stop everything altogether. The Sanskrit commentator makes an important point. Karmaṇām ca sannyasah teshu anāsakti matram natu swarupena ashakyatvat. What does giving up action mean? Karmaṇām to sannyasa. Sannyasa means giving up, renunciation. So a sannyasi is a monk who has given up. What is giving up action? What does it mean? He says, teshu anāsakti matram. Just being detached from them. Not using them to fulfill worldly desires. That is giving up action. Natu swarupena, not actually stopping action. Not just becoming a statue. Sitting still. Why not? Ashakyatvat, because it's impossible. It's just impossible. Many people find it difficult to sit still. That's bad. You must learn how to sit still. Swami Shankaranandaji was the president of our order long before my time. By all accounts, a formidable, really formidable monk. And by all accounts, he was huge. And he was very fair. Now, and he would be very, very still when he would sit. Even his eyes, he wouldn't blink. Now, those who have gone to the temple of Sri Ramakrishna in Belur Math, you would have seen the statue of Sri Ramakrishna is a white marble statue, which of course being a statue sits still. And the tradition is, you go to the temple, bow down to the image of Sri Ramakrishna, then go to the head of the order, the president of the order, and offer your pranams, your salutations to the president of the order. Now it so happened, this was in the 1950s, Swami Shankaranandaji was president, and this mother and a little child, a little boy, so they had obviously come to the main temple and they had bowed down there, and then they came to the President Maharaj, the head of the order, and while they were bowing down, the little boy, he looked carefully at the Swami, this huge person, so white, fair, unblinking, unmoving, absolutely still, sitting like that. And he looked very carefully and crept up. Before anybody could do anything, he crept up to the Swami, and the Swami's thigh, he did this. And the Swami, it seems he had a cavernous voice, like a booming voice. A person, well, my grandmother, she was a disciple of that Swami. So she told me that whenever my guru spoke to me, it seemed as if his voice is coming out of a cave, So suddenly the Swami looked down at the little boy and he said, "Not a statue." And the boy was so startled, he rushed and hid behind his mother's sari, peeked out from behind his mother. In Bengali he said, "Statue noy." Because he understood the little boy's psychology, that the boy must have gone to the temple and seen the statue of Sri Ramakrishna. And then come here and looking at this, thinking this one is also like that. Yes, one must learn how to sit still. And there are many, really, it's not related right here, it's related to meditation. People say, my mind doesn't settle down in meditation, wanders here and there. There are different ways. When the breath is calm, mind is calm. When the eyes are fixed, the mind is fixed. When the body is still, the mind is still. Sharir drishti prana sthairya. This is a teacher told me. I read about it in Uttarakhand. What does it mean? One way of making the mind still is making the body still. Sit still. Not rigid. If you sit rigid, after some time the muscles will become tired and then you'll have to move. So relaxed. But don't fidget. Be aware that you are really, really still. One way is, this is the Buddhist idea. Imagine you're holding a bowl of water and the water is full to the brim. Absolutely full to the brim. Even if your hand trembles a little, a few drops will spill over. So imagine how carefully you have to hold and how much attention you have to put there if you don't want to spill even a little of the water. Now imagine your mind is that bowl. So how carefully you have to sit so that there's any shaking of the body, the mind will be disturbed, like that bowl of water. Keep that strongly in your mind, that image of the bowl of water and the water filled to the brim. Little trembling of your hand, it will spill. Similarly, a little trembling of the body. Sit. Another way, these are meditation masters. They have investigated this so much over the centuries and millennia. See, there's one way of giving instructions You sit straight and relaxed. Don't be rigid, but don't be bent over. Keep the spine and the neck and the waist in one line. These are what are called linear instructions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like a drill sergeant. It works. That's one way. Another way is shortcut. Bypass the intellectual mind. Go straight to the subconscious. You know what they say? Sit like a mountain. Breathe like the wind. Whatever that means, your subconscious mind knows. How does the mountain sit? Just think, if you imagine that, you're not you anymore, you are the mountain. That's the power of the subconscious mind. You'll see immediately the sitting becomes much better. Or another way, imitatio, in Latin it is called. In yoga also it is used. Take the example of a yogi, Vivekananda. He's sitting here. Perfect. This is a Raja Yoga posture, meditation posture. Now, if you know something about Vivekananda, it will work better that way. If you read about Vivekananda, you know about him, how he's in samadhi. Imagine now when you're sitting, it's not I who am sitting. I'm gone now. It's Vivekananda is sitting. How is Vivekananda sitting? What are the thoughts in the mind of Vivekananda? Subconscious mind. Of course, it's still you. But your subconscious kicks into action. What happens is, I am meditating. And your subconscious mind says, hey, I know you. You can't meditate. Your mind is going to be disturbed. And your mind becomes disturbed. Because it's your mind, my mind cannot be but disturbed. So it's going to be disturbed. But if you tell the subconscious, not me, it's Vivekananda. And subconscious says, Vivekananda, of course, he's a great meditator. Now your meditation is very deep now. And your meditation will be deep. You can try it and see. Especially if it's somebody you know. Some people get scared. Isn't it blasphemous to think of myself as Krishna or Jesus? In fact, one of the novices went to his guru. I remember he told me later. He said, can I think of myself as Sri Ramakrishna? And I was a teacher, so I said, I can't say that. You have to ask your guru. Is it a good thing to think? And his guru told him yes. He looked at him carefully. But it's a specific instruction to that person. You can do that. Meditation becomes immensely deep. Immediately. Effortlessly so. Anyway, that's beside the point here. The point here is, you cannot stay for even a moment without action. Suppose you try. In spite of all of these warnings, and I've seen so many who try. Disaster. When you try very hard, what happens? Stubbornly. No. The Swami is telling us all this, but he's a monk. So I'm going to become a monk no matter what he tells. I'm going to become a monk and I'll show him. I'll go to the highest cave in the highest mountain, I'll meditate. What will happen? 6th verse. Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mithyachara sauchyate. A strong warning. He says that deluded person, vimudhatma deluded person, or the fool, who forcibly controls the external organs. I will not walk and talk, I will not turn up for my job or pick up the kids. I'm going to sit quietly and meditate. And then internally what's going on? Outwardly sitting quietly, eyes closed, even still, sitting like the mountain. Internally what's going on? Indriyarthan manasasmaran aste. Mind is continually dwelling on the world, on things of the senses. I want that, would be nice. That movie is very nice. Can I get a ticket for that? That person, I think, wants to insult me. Well, wait a minute. Tomorrow I go back, I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. Meditation going on God. Then what? And the Krishna is particularly harsh. Mithyachara sauchyate. That one is called a hypocrite. Mithyachara. The one who acts inauthentically, a hypocrite. I want to meditate on God, or I want to stabilize in the knowledge that I am the witness, and I'm doing anything but that. So for large periods of time, it can happen. And I've seen it. And those who force it even further, nervous breakdown. I've seen they lose their mind. Unfortunately, I've seen in the case of a few who do much more than what they actually should be doing. Hours and hours of meditation. Not enough sleep. Not enough food. Why? One senior monk used to joke, a wonderful old Swami. He used to joke that, because I will get enlightenment first and win the first prize. But that's the childish mentality we have. We don't put it that way, so in such a silly way. But I want enlightenment right now. I'm going to be the Buddha right now. Nervous breakdown. I've seen people literally going off their mind. Forcibly, what happens is, it awakens maybe samskaras of this life or even past lives, and you're not ready to deal with it, like demons being awakened. I literally saw one young monk, not a monk, a novice, kill himself in front of my eyes. I didn't know. He just suddenly ran past me. I was bowing down in the temple. I saw this person running, and then he takes a jump into the river. And I thought maybe he's going to take a bath, because that's where people were taking bath. And they didn't realize until they saw he was not coming up. And when they went to see, gone. And then they asked what happened. They had been meditating day and night, and suddenly he thinks he's enlightened. All sleep is gone. All these such things happen. But it's pathological. It's pathological. It's a nervous breakdown. And I've seen other cases too. Overdoing, never good. Never good. Especially these subtle spiritual practices. They have an effect. They have a very powerful effect. If we cannot handle it, yes.
You mentioned Buddha, so that actually brings up a good question.
Yes.
So, Buddha, Jesus, they were enlightened pretty early in their lives. So
Yes.
do avatars have different rules?
That is true. No rules for avatars. Avatars are basically incarnations of God. So these are extraordinary. You will see the founders of the religions or those who are at the source of spiritual traditions. One has to admit people have different capacities. And one has to be honest about it. When I look at myself, my physical capacities, my mental capacities, my intellectual capacities, and therefore my capacity for spiritual practice is very different from many others. The people who are much stronger than me physically, who can deny that? There are people who are much smarter than me intellectually. There are people who are much deeper spiritually. I've seen it. I've been teaching novices for 8-9 years, and I could see these young novices who have just become monks 2 or 3 years ago. And I've been a monk for 10 or 12 years, and there are other senior monks who have been monks for 20, 30, 40 years. And these, maybe 1 or 2 in each group of novices, maybe 30, 40 novices, maybe 1 or 2, are exceptionally developed. So that comes from past lives. So the kind of meditation that they can do is difficult for others to do. So there are different capacities. And the capacities of the avatars are extraordinary. They are not here to attain enlightenment. They are here to teach us. So you will find what they do in 2 years or 1 year or 3 years or 8 or 9 years in the case of Buddha. It may take lifetimes for the others to come even close to that. You take 1 day in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. He's going in and out of samadhi so many times. And once maybe a spiritual seeker can attain that kind of a spiritual absorption maybe once or twice in his lifetime. So one must admit different capacities. Just as there are different capacities in our practical day-to-day life, physical capacity, mental capacity, they're different. And there's nothing wrong in that. They're perfectly all right. One should start where one is. Yeah. Even the Buddha, in fact, last week was Buddha's birthday. Thrice blessed day. And I just happened to be at the UN at that time, and just showing a Swami was visiting, showing him around. And in one of the halls, there was Theresa May, the British Prime Minister. She was giving a talk on mindfulness. Yes. And she was not there physically. It was a video link from London. So they were celebrating Buddha's birthday. Maybe she needs mindfulness now, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. So capacities are different, no doubt about it. Yes.
No, you say we have pure consciousness.
Please sit here, sir. Sit. Please sit.
Consciousness.
Yes.
What prevented us from being conscious of our own consciousness?
Well,
Condition.
True. Now the problem is, we are ignorant of our real self. Why are we ignorant, if you ask? In Uttarakhand, sadhus, they have a very nice answer to this. He says, "Agyan ko pratisthit mat kijiye, Mahatma ji, agyan ko kaatiye." Don't try to establish ignorance, try to remove ignorance. The point is, there are answers to that. There are answers to that question. But right now, the practical answer is, if this is true, what do I need to do now? Not to go on a theoretical quest on how it all began, rather to get out of this problem. Right? So, yes, we are pure consciousness. We are the Atman, Brahman, whatever you call it. We don't know it now, we don't feel it now. But enlightened people assure us it is possible. The teachings of the great religious traditions, they all assure us in different language, in different systems. And that's what we should pursue. If you ask, I have discussed this question, those who are here, I've discussed this number of times, how did it all begin? Or one answer in Vedanta is Maya. If you say, why Maya? Then you know my answer. The question why cannot be asked there. Why can the question why cannot be asked there? Then it leads to a subtle discussion of causality, and so on. So the straight answer to your question is, such a situation exists. Now I must get out of it. That would have been Buddha's answer also. Why I brought up Buddha was two reasons. One, you asked about meditation and capacities. He did an extremely hard practice. Nearly died as a result of it. And then what did he come to the conclusion? The middle path. The middle path. Not luxury and looseness and dissolute life. No. Not torturing the body. There's so many yogis in India especially who do that. Ascetics tend to do that. Some of the desert fathers in early Christianity, they used to do that. Torturing the body. That also is not helpful, because if the instrument is damaged, the Buddha gave the example of the veena. He said, "Oh monks, if the strings of the veena are loose, will you have music?" No. If you tighten it too hard, what will happen? It will snap. It has to be just so. Of course, his middle path was a pretty austere middle path. We would consider it pretty extreme if you actually read about what he wants us to do. Yes, a follow-up?
Related question.
Yes. Yes.
Just blocking.
Okay, when it comes back. No.
In the pure consciousness, pure consciousness you mentioned as a witness.
Yes.
Consciousness. Is that witness consciousness part of ego or part of Atma, Brahman?
Many Vedantists here, eager to answer. Me, let me answer. So, witness consciousness is part of ego or part of Atman? Atman, yes. Witness consciousness is part of Atman, but part is also not the correct word. It is the Atman. It is the Atman. If you say part of it, part of Brahman, that leads to Vishishtadvaita. Advaita Vedanta says, Sakshi Chaitanya, the witness consciousness. It's not a consciousness which witnesses, not as an act. I'm sitting here and witnessing consciousness, like with a telescope or something, witnessing something. No, not like that. It just is and it shines. Sat Chit. And in its light, everything is revealed. That which is revealed, if you take it to be a separate existence, universe, body, mind, they're all separate, real, out there, and you are the uninvolved witness consciousness. What is this philosophy called? Sankhya. Okay. But if you say all of that is an appearance in you, the witness consciousness, like things which you are experienced in a dream. What you experience in a dream is not out there. It was in your mind. Now, in Brahman, if all of this is appearing not apart from Brahman, then what would it be? Advaita, yes, Advaita Vedanta. So in that sense, witness consciousness. Yes. One more verse. Oh, let me just read out the one line which the commentator, he has made a very, very nice comments here. This hypocrite who sits and thinks of the world, pretending to meditate, he says, in the guise of meditating on God, sits there, thinks about the things of the world. Why? Because of impurities of mind. Remember, he wants to meditate on God. He really doesn't want to think about, he does not want to meditate on his boss or on whether parking has to be renewed or something like that. It doesn't want to, but automatically it comes up. Why? Because of impurity of mind. And what does this lead to? Instability. You are not stable in the meditation on the deity, if you're meditating on Krishna, or on the self, the capital S. You can't stay there as the witness. People keep saying, it was there for half an hour. So, God was there for half an hour? The absolute, beyond time, space and causation was there for half an hour? No. The mind sort of settled down on it, and then, let me read out the Sanskrit. Bhagavad dhyana chalena. Chala means pretending to be. Bhagavad dhyana chalena indriyarthan vishayan smaran aste. Aste sits. Smaran, thinking of things of the world. Why? Avishuddhataya manasa. Because of impurity of the mind. Not yet purified. Then the result is atmani sthairya bhavat. Lack of stability in the Atman, in the self. In contrast to this, okay, we've run out of time. Anybody wants to make a comment? Yes.
So what's the answer? What's the solution?
Solution to? This situation?
To uncondition yourself.
Right. For that you have to come to the next class. I thought I would do more today. The answer is there. Krishna begins the answer from the very next verse. 7th verse of 3rd chapter. He begins the answer. What should be done? If you cannot come, an executive summary. Nowadays, you don't have to read the book. It seems the secretary will make an executive summary for the boss. So that the boss can claim that he has read the book. So you can claim that you have read the Gita, executive summary. Therefore, bringing the sense organs under control with the help of the internal organ, mind, intellect, memory, mana buddhi citta ahankara, engage thou in action. Moral action, your action, that person will attain enlightenment. And he says, niyatam kuru karmatvam. Be continuously engaged in action, O Arjuna. Why? Karma-jair hi akarmana. Action is better than inaction, as a principle. Because true inaction you don't achieve until enlightenment. Even the ones who achieve enlightenment and they say that we have achieved the state of no action are not the persons who are not, it's not that they have stopped acting with the body. For them, even while acting intensely, from their point of view, there is no action at all. So that all those things will come slowly. Yes.
So what happens to a person who is invalid and cannot act?
All right, physically invalid, but can think. I remember a monk, 2 or 3 examples, very beautiful. One monk who was paralyzed. He had only one hand, use of only one hand. And I was in the hospital, and he was in a couple of beds next to mine, and he could not even feed himself. Others had to do it for him. But throughout the day, whenever he was conscious, often loudly, he's going on, Ramakrishna, 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 Krishna, 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 like it's going on. Ramakrishna, Ramakrishna, it would go on like this. Particularly touching incident. This happened in our hospital. So I was a young novice, the youngest of the patients, because I was a little sick, so I was put in the hospital. But it enabled me to see that ward was full of, it was only for monks. So it was full of old swamis who were ailing, maybe about to die. Some did die. It gave me a quick glimpse, preview of what's in store for me. It's very nice. It's very nice. I'm so happy that I got to see that. I was there for nearly 2 months, and that's one of the things I took away from there. So this Swami, his name was Gaur Maharaj. He passed away a few months after that. Anyway, I still remember one beautiful evening. That ward is pretty high, Shiva Pratishthan. It's pretty high up on the 6th or 7th floor in Calcutta. So and from the windows that you could just see sort of darkness and the city lights in the distance. Evening, it's all quiet in the hospital. Imagine, these are old men who are sick and dying, basically. Physically, that's the fact on the ground. So this Swami who's lying there, he's been paralyzed for 11 years. 11 years in that state. And another monk, who was my teacher, who had a beautiful singing voice. He is there near this old Swami's bed. And sometimes for some patients you put up barriers on the bed. So the wooden barrier on the bed. Holding that barrier, and this Swami is looking out at this old monk who is paralyzed. And he's singing. And this is such a beautiful scene. He's singing. The lines of the song, I've forgotten the original lines, but they meant this. Imagine the window outside, it's dark. He says, it's a song to the Guru. O Guru, O my Guru, it is time to go now. Evening has come, but it is so dark. And my heart quakes in fear. Hold my hand, O Guru. Let us go together. Go together. It's a song of death and passing, So I remember that. It was so beautiful, so touching, like the individual hairs on your head. Because his voice was so beautiful. That's one. Unable to act. And the other monks would help, say, Swami, do you remember, who is that? He would show me a picture of his Guru. Do you remember? His Guru's picture, and he would say, Guru. Do you remember? So that Thakur, Ramakrishna, yes, I remember. Another monk I knew, who was also paralyzed, a disciple of Swami Vijnananandaji, this is a worse condition, blind in both eyes, paralyzed in both legs. And like that he remained for, I think, 12 to 15 years. I saw him towards the end of his life. And a happier man, I kid you not, I have not met. A stronger spirit I have not met. Not once did I ever heard him. I was with him in that same dorm, in the hospital ward for 2 months nearly consecutively. And later on in the main monastery, I was to go and see him. Not once have I heard him talk about his own body. If you would go to him, he would be full of cheer because he can't see you. You have to tell him who you are. And then he would inquire. Mostly monks would go to see him. Which ashram you have come from? How is the work going on there? Is everybody keeping well? Please convey my blessings to them. And strong. When he was in the ward, he basically, this old, paralyzed, blind man, he controlled everybody else. We're all running around doing his bit. Once, it's funny, the Swami in charge of the kitchen would come and say, Swami, I'm so-and-so, I'm in charge of the kitchen. Would you like to eat anything special? He said, I want dosa. Because he's Bengali, he's hardly had any chance to have dosa. So the Swami said, I'll make dosa for you, don't worry. It'll be specially made for you. The next day he makes it and we watch how it is. It has to be fed to him, he can't eat. After that the Swami sort of smugly, the kitchen Swami asked, well, did you like it? How did you like it? And he says, no good. What? No good? What do you mean? This dosa I had in Mysore. When did you go to Mysore? Oh, that the other day, in 1952. And this other Swami goes, Swami, that was before I was born. He said, it's not like that dosa. Full of humor and incredible. It taught me, I'll really tell you, it taught me what it means to be bodiless. To transcend the body does not mean like coming out like a puff of smoke out of the body and floating away. No, it means to be in the body and entirely unaffected by the body. What it means to be unaffected by your circumstances of life. Okay, this Swami, he was one of the most active Swamis. He was well known in our Ramakrishna mission, Narendrapur. He was there He was the one in charge of the gardens, the agriculture, and the maintenance of the buildings, which is a huge, huge job. He was busy from morning till night. This Swami, imagine, laid flat for 12 or 15 years, I don't know how long. Cannot see, cannot move. I could tell, those 2 months gave me so many stories I can share. One day in the evening, just monks, and the Swamis around 6:30 or so, other monks have come. The hospital is run by the monks. So they come to visit the patients who are monks, and we would sort of chat and gossip a little. And it's evening. The Swami can't see that it's evening. He's blind, he's in a corner. And we are talking and sort of gossiping. And he had a very strong voice. From there he shouts, "O monks, the evening comes, time to meditate. Stop chatting." And we would all sort of quieten down and sort of get back to meditating. Can you imagine? Half a dozen, maybe more than that, 10 old Swamis who have had operations, different kinds of serious illnesses. I was the young one, others were all old. Not much chance of getting much better. Little better, little worse, and then die. Evenings, mornings, how they are all sitting on the bed, straight, meditating. The whole ward, that particular ward, has that atmosphere of a meditation hall. Amazing. It's really worth seeing that. Spiritual life really can transform our lives. Hold on to it seriously for a lifetime, it transforms your life. On that beautiful note, let us end. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.